NFV has had a huge surge out of the gate with a lot of telecom service providers joining the movement and vendors to support, because they see immediate short-term gains in converting their appliances into VMs, to virtual machines, where you have functions in the layer 4 to 7 application layer that are already running in a server somewhere, but as a dedicated expensive appliance, you can take that same function, move it to a VM and a multi-core processor, say, and have an ordinary server run a variety of these functions in the same server. This saves you cost, computing power, and electricity. But that only works for functions that are already implementable in just a server. And that's the immediate benefit that these operators can gain from NFV in the short term. In the longer term, the more important functions that you want to virtualize require cooperation from the data plane. And the only real way to get that cooperation from the data plane is with SDN. When you have to look at every packet, for example, to filter for security, or to do some kind of a tap, or to do access control, or to do load balancing, you want to be able to steer that traffic, and the only way to direct it to the specific points you want to take it is through SDN with a control function like OpenFlow. Look at service chaining. You want to string together a variety of services to take one customer's traffic into a number of functions, one after the other in a prescribed order. You can't leave that to arbitrary routing from the old layer 2 and layer 3 routing mechanisms. And that's where you need SDN with something like OpenFlow to control the paths explicitly. The Open Networking Foundation is very precisely focused on developing the OpenFlow substrate within the larger context of SDN. We're doing a lot in SDN architecture, framework, and support. And the OpenFlow substrate is the foundation on which that is built. We are making sure we have the hooks and the control mechanisms inside the OpenFlow substrate to support the virtualization of these important network functions. So that if you want to construct a service chain, for example, you can send commands through OpenFlow to an OpenFlow switch that will allow you to direct the path to either real or virtual ports that perform these functions. So we are making sure technically that we have the underpinning for the virtualization that NFV required. We work closely with a lot of telecom service providers. They've come to us for solutions to a number of their problems. And it basically comes down to one of two things, either saving money or making money. And there's quite a variety of motivations among the telecom service providers we interact with as to what's most important for them first. And we've really seen a couple of approaches. One is I've got to save my OpEx and my CapEx by lowering the cost of the equipment that I use to run my network, including my internal network. And then there's the approach of I've got to compete with the over-the-tops and others that are offering lucrative services, and cloud services in particular, to enterprise clients. So they are adding new services and new facilities with brand new greenfield SDN build-outs to offer these. They've been offered for over a year commercially on a worldwide scale. So we are trying to understand how they can continue to leverage their existing management schemes and their existing billing schemes to put this new technology kind of underneath it without disrupting the way they do business and allowing them to simply save costs and make money. We see the combination as being extensive already. You mentioned DPI. If you have to do deep packet inspection, you can't send every packet up to a server somewhere, especially at the rates that traffic moves in a telecom carrier network. Consequently, you need to do that in the data plane. We have data plane support mapped out in a lot of the things we do. I think the question is separate about how the landscape in the telecom marketplace is going to evolve through the provision of services to, say, virtual network operators at different levels. In general, I think that the NFV argument is great for the status quo just to improve the computing equation, but in the long term it's going to be essential for how they provide flexible services to their customers, whether their customers are enterprises or other service providers. There's already a proof of concept demo being planned for this fall in Frankfurt in October at the Layer 123 SDN and OpenFlow World Congress that ONF co-hosts, October 15 to 18 in Bad Homburg, just outside of Frankfurt to the northwest. And that'll be a great demonstration that you can actually do some things very quickly. Over the time that I think you're going to see a lot of people getting on board with NFV for these initial computational improvements, we're going to see the OpenFlow and SDN ecosystem flesh out considerably with products and software and services so that when they are ready to take the next step and change how they control their networks, we'll have the stuff there for them to do that. I think it dovetails really very, very nicely. We work really closely with this group. We share officers, we share members, we're syncing up on the phone all the time. It's a very harmonious interaction we have between these two organizations. We're really devoted to our mutual success.